The discipline you practice is destroying you. Not because you don't try hard enough, but because you have turned discipline into a war that can never be won. Every morning you wake up and have to convince yourself. Every decision is a negotiation. Every action requires you to defeat a version of yourself that doesn't want to obey. And you call this discipline, but it is self-imposed torture. Modern man believes that discipline is control, that the harder you force, the stronger you become, that life is a constant battle between the version of you that wants to progress and the version that wants to quit, and that the winner is the one who endures the longest in this internal war without collapsing. But here is the brutal truth no one tells you. If you still need to fight with yourself to be disciplined, you don't have discipline. You only have a survival strategy that will fail. Eventually, inevitably. Because war generates exhaustion, and exhaustion generates collapse. The cycle is always the same. You decide to change, you make a perfect plan, you execute for a few days with heroic intensity. You feel invincible, and then something breaks. A bad day, a distraction, a failure, and the entire castle you built with pure willpower crumbles in seconds. And the question that corrodes you inside, why can others do it and I can't? But what if the question is wrong? What if the problem is not that you are weak, but that you are using the wrong method from the start? There is a second type of discipline, one that the samurai practiced and that the modern world has completely forgotten. It is not about control. It is about transcendence. It is not about forcing behaviors. It is about dissolving the very need to force. Miyamoto Musashi won over 60 mortal duels and never lost. Not because he fought better, but because he stopped fighting himself. And he left a complete map of how to get there. And today, you will understand why the discipline you were taught is a lie and what the real path is to becoming unshakable.
Miyamoto Musashi won over 60 duels without ever losing. But it wasn't because he was faster or stronger than his opponents. It was because there was no hesitation between intention and action. The sword was already in motion before the thought arose. In The Book of Five Rings, Musashi describes the fatal error of the samurai who mentally prepares before the duel. Because if he needs to change his mental state to fight, he has already lost. The true warrior has the same mind cutting wood, meditating, or facing death. This is Heijoshin, the everyday mind. There is no separation between the warrior in combat and the warrior at rest. It is not indifference, it is total integration. There is no war mask, there is no motivated version versus lazy version. There is only one state, absolute presence in any action. In the modern world, we translate it like this: the man who needs to enter focus mode to work is divided. The one who simply works because working is a natural expression of who he is unified. There is no energetic cost of transition. There is no internal resistance, only flow. Think about how much energy you spend every day just trying to put yourself in the right state. Motivation to work out, focus to work, discipline not to procrastinate. You are constantly preparing to do instead of simply doing. Musashi did not prepare. He was. And that difference changes everything. But how does one achieve this state? How does discipline cease to be effort and become nature? Musashi answers with the second principle.
Musashi divided the path to mastery into two sacred cycles, Sensei no Michi, 1,000 days to build the foundation, and Tanren no Michi, 10,000 days to refine to invisible perfection. 1,000 days is equivalent to approximately 3 years. Musashi did not choose this number arbitrarily. It is the minimum time for the body and mind to deeply integrate a practice, not just technically, but identifiably. In the first 1,000 days, you still feel effort, you still negotiate, you still have bad days, but something is being forged below the surface. Neural pathways, muscle memory, and most importantly, the gradual dissolution of the separation between self and action. The next 10,000 days are not about adding techniques. They are about removal, eliminating everything that is still unnecessary, everything that is still ego, and everything that still interferes with the pure flow. In the modern world, this destroys the culture of the quick result. 3 years for the foundation, 30 years for mastery. But the cruel irony, the man who seeks shortcuts never arrives. The one who accepts time as an ally transcends time itself. Most people quit in the first 100 days. Some reach 300. Very few complete 1,000. And almost no one even imagines 10,000. But these are precisely the ones who transcend. But why can't modern man accept this? There is a deep psychological reason that Hayao Kawai unveiled.
Hayao Kawai, a Japanese Jungian psychologist, identified that the Western mind collapses in the face of Ma, the empty space between beginning and result, because it interprets the absence of visible progress as existential failure. Ma is a Japanese concept with no direct translation. It is the negative space in calligraphy, the silence between musical notes, the interval between breaths. In the psyche, it is the period where nothing seems to happen, but everything is being integrated. Kawai studied for decades why Westerners who attempt Zen practices often quit. He discovered they cannot endure staying in the Ma. The Western mind demands constant feedback, progressive validation, measurable proof of evolution. In the context of modern discipline, you work out for a week and want to see muscle. You meditate for 3 days and want enlightenment. You study for 2 months and expect mastery. When the result does not arrive at the expected pace, the ego interprets it as time wasted. But the samurai trained in the void, 1,000 cuts a day, without an audience, without metrics, without proof of progress. And he continued, because he understood the Ma is not an absence of progress. It is the invisible laboratory where body and mind restructure identity. Think about this. How many times have you started something, not seen quick results, and abandoned it? How many practices did you quit just when you were entering the Ma, the critical space where real transformation happens? Modern culture sells that discipline is linear. Effort leads to result. Kawai shows that it is cyclical. Effort leads to Ma, apparent emptiness, which leads to deep integration, which leads to a new level of being. Days 300 to 700 of Musashi's 1,000 days are the most brutal Ma. Nothing seems to change. You feel no difference. The ego screams, "This is not working, change strategy." But it is precisely here that the body and brain are reorganizing on a deep level. The one who abandons the Ma remains an eternal beginner. The one who crosses it emerges transformed. If you feel this conflict between wanting to progress but being unable to stand the feeling of stagnation, subscribe. This channel is where you learn to inhabit the void before trying to control the outcome. And modern neuroscience has finally managed to measure what happens in that empty space that the ego fears. Dr. Lisa Miller, a Colombian neuroscientist and pioneer in spiritual psychology, discovered that repetitive, disciplined practices not only strengthen skills, they activate the same brain circuits associated with experiences of transcendence and connection to a greater purpose. Miller conducted neuroimaging studies with elite athletes, Buddhist monks, and artists in a state of flow. She discovered something revolutionary. When these people are in deep practice, 3 specific brain regions synchronize. First, the parietal cortex drastically reduces its activity. This is the region that creates the boundary between self and world. When it decreases, the separation between who you are and what you do dissolves. Second, the medial prefrontal cortex activates, connecting the present action to a sense of purpose, greater meaning, something that transcends you. Third, the limbic system regulates itself, generating a state of calm alertness, not performance anxiety. You are totally present but without tension. This neural pattern is identical to that of spontaneous mystical experiences. But here is Miller's crucial finding. It is not the transcendent experience that generates discipline. It is repeated discipline that generates the transcendent experience. Musashi called this Mushin, mind without mind. Miller mapped it in the brain. It is a state where you are not doing something with effort. You are the flow of the action. There is no separate observer, only total presence. And this does not happen by chance. It happens through the 1,000-day method. Miller tested and proved it. Days 1 to 100, mental chaos, resistance, constant negotiation. The prefrontal cortex is in overdrive. You are forcing through pure willpower. Days 101 to 300, stabilization. The body recognizes the pattern. Prefrontal cortex activity begins to decrease. The basal ganglia, the autopilot system, begin to take over. Days 301 to 700, the maw, the apparent void, invisible progress, critical moment of quitting, but neurologically, this is where the magic happens. Neural connections are consolidating. The pattern is becoming incorporated identity. Days 701 to 1000, emergence of the new self, effortless action, incorporated transcendence. The parietal cortex reduces activity during practice. You no longer feel a separation between you and the act. Mushin neurologically realized. Miller proved it is not willpower. It is deep neural reorganization that happens only through time and conscious repetition. Choose one practice, and commit to the 1,000 days. Not because it will be easy, because the first 300 days will be war, the next 400 will be void. But in the last 300, something emerges that did not exist before. A you who no longer needs to fight to be disciplined, because discipline has become who you are. This is where philosophy ceases to be an idea and becomes a neural structure. So, uniting Musashi, Kawai, and Miller, what does it truly mean to become unshakable through discipline?
True discipline happens when 3 forces converge: the structured method of Musashi, the psychological acceptance of the Ma by Kawai, and the neuro-spiritual activation of transcendence circuits by Miller. Layer 1. Method. Musashi. Don't invent, follow the map. 1,000 days for the foundation. Heijio Shin begins to emerge. 10,000 days for mastery. Action becomes identity. Do not skip steps. Do not look for shortcuts. Structured patience is the method. Layer 2. Psyche. Kawaii. Accept the ma. Days 300 to 700 will be barren. You will see no progress. The ego will scream to change strategy. But it is in this void that the body and mind reorganize deep identity. He who remains in the ma emerges transformed. He who flees remains an eternal beginner. Layer 3. Neuroplasticity. Miller. Your brain is literally rebuilding itself. Each conscious repetition strengthens circuits. In the ma phase, neural connections are consolidating, an invisible but measurable process. After 700 days, you are no longer who you started as. Discipline has ceased to be something you do and has become who you are. These 3 layers are not sequential. They are simultaneous. You follow Musashi's method while accepting Kawaii's ma, while trusting Miller's neural reorganization. When the 3 align, something radical happens. You stop trying to be disciplined. You simply are. And it is at this point that the video's title is fulfilled. Becoming unshakable is not about gaining strength to resist. It is about transcending the very need to resist. Topic 7. Unshakable is not what resists. It is what has already transcended. There is a fatal misconception about what it means to be unshakable. Modern culture imagines the stone man, immune to emotions, stoically resisting all impulses. But Musashi, at the end of his life, lived alone in a cave writing calligraphy and painting. He was not resisting distractions. There simply were no longer any distractions. His mind and his actions were one. Kawaii describes this state as muga, absence of the separate ego. It is not the destruction of the self. It is the dissolution of the division between observer and action. Miller mapped it. In this state, the parietal cortex that creates the sense of self separate from the world has minimal activity. You are not doing discipline. You are the disciplined flow itself. The final stage is not fighting better, it is no longer having a fight. Beginner fights against himself daily. Intermediate has good and bad days but persists. Advanced discipline has become habit, requires less effort. Transcendent, there is no longer separation. He does not work out, meditate, work, or create. He simply is, and those actions are natural expressions of that being. This does not happen in months. It happens in Musashi's 10,000 days. But it happens. And when it happens, the search for peace ends, because you discover that true discipline was always peace itself. Becoming unshakable through discipline is not about building stronger walls. It is about dissolving the boundary between who you are and what you do. It is not conquest, it is transcendence. Which part of this teaching confronted you the most today?
Subscribe and continue the journey of internal mastery. Every video here is a layer of the same path that Musashi mapped, from effort to flow, from resistance to transcendence, from the warrior who fights to the warrior who simply is. Philosophy is not meant to make you wiser. It is meant to make you more alive. And when you finally stop fighting discipline, you discover that there was never a battle. There was only alignment waiting to be discovered.